Good evening, everyone. How you doing? My name is Zach Clayton. I am the president and founder of Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. Tonight, we are going to relive Community Mission to Rescue 22 with 2 hours of the show. And this is a very important thing for me to do because one, we bring on other perspectives rather than just myself. The show starts with my wife and my sister Jan, who are going to give a female's perspective of what's going on, and then after that, we bring on some people who have lived through violence and suicide. And it's a very, very intense second hour. And there's a lot of hard things to hear. So I'm going to warn you now, it's not comfortable, but it's as real as it gets. So this is this was in the 7 and 8 o'clock block of the show. So this was getting towards the end of the night, but I want to bring you into this. Sorry about the mix-up. We were having problems with our friends at Facebook, and we ended up getting them fixed. But like I said, this begins with my wife Adrienne and my sister Jan. Please enjoy this. Like I said, it's a different perspective of what our mission was.
Hey everybody, it's Adrienne and Jan. We're here with the Community Pay It Forward for our veteran suicide awareness.
Hey, babe. Babe.
Yeah.
Come here. What's this telling me here?
Is it doing the Facebook thing again?
It says we're having trouble streaming to Facebook.
You know, the thing is I think right now with all the wind, I think that Facebook is really doing bad things.
Post was created. So what do I do? What the hell do I do with this?
Just delete all the Facebook things, and we'll try to play them later off of YouTube. Just delete the Facebook things. Here, let me go on ahead and do that.
Just remove.
But yeah, okay. So
got it.
Damn Facebook.
I think it was only things that it's having a problem with.
So no, it's
okay. Nice.
So we can go from there, though. Here, let's go on ahead and add.
Okay.
Oh, can't do that one, but let's add those. There you go.
Okay, now we're on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
There we go.
Now you're all professional like and stuff.
Oh, don't count on that.
It's us. Never. It's professional.
Okay. So our topic is going to be.
We are going to go ahead and we're going to do the post-traumatic mental health side of it. You know, what can result what results from post-traumatic? You have so many things that your mind can do and so many ways that it can go. And we can have a fractured mind. We can have a splintered mind. We can have a shattered mind. We can have a half chunk and broken mind. And how do you deal with that?
Usually just go crazy.
Right. You know, we focus a lot on, you know, say the men in combat, We have women in combat too. We have mothers, and we suffer from isolation, and we're in post-traumatic, and we have our own stresses. And yeah, I don't know. I've been going through so much with this, with a lot of people in my life. It's not just veterans. It's just post-traumatic in general, and not dealing with issues and not having enough resources in this country for anybody, whether you are a veteran or whether you are a civilian, whether you are a child, whether you are elderly, whether you are middle-aged. There is no help for anybody. No help.
Now, we have a young man that has some violent outbursts and outbreaks and self-harm, and you call the hospital and they send, or you call the police and they send somebody de-escalate the situation. That's all. That's great. But they take him to a hospital after he says he's going to kill himself, and it's a 72-hour hold. In 4 hours, they call you and say, there's nothing wrong with him. Come get him.
Right. And how many of our veterans go through that? They know how to work the system. And we all know how to work the system, really. I mean, it's not just our veterans that know how to work the system. I think all of us know how to work the system deep down inside. We know the right things to say. We know the right things to do. You know, and mental health is just slipping through the cracks. It's awful. I feel bad for society as a whole. I feel bad for you. I feel bad for me, because what if I need help? Where do I turn to?
I think a lot of it may have stemmed from maybe where drug use is so common right now. They just say, you know what, they're on drugs. That's their problem. They're on drugs. There's nothing we can do for them.
Right. Or, well, why are they on the drugs? And that leads back to this world's forgotten what empathy is. This world's forgotten what caring about the next human being is, and their mental status, and looking out for each other. I mean, mental health is not just a government issue. It's not just a one person issue. It's a society issue. It's a world issue right now. And we've felt nothing but isolation, and our isolations lead us to nothing. These people that were in their homes, these veterans and these civilians are in their homes with mental health disorders, you know, and depression that maybe has gone undiagnosed for how long? Maybe you have a case of schizophrenia or bipolar. You have your manic episodes and you have your down episodes. Maybe you have trauma that you never knew about, but your self-isolation has brought you to this moment. There's no help, it seems, for anybody.
Yeah. And even if there is, by the time you realize it, you're one of two ways. You're either going to commit suicide, or you just don't give a crap what happens to anybody. And
Right.
Both are dangerous.
Very, very. And it's a lack of, are we not teaching? What has changed? What has changed with society? Now, when I look at it, our suicide rates are going through the roof, just through the roof. It seems like there's no hope anywhere for anything. Everything is negative. Everything is just gray.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's go back to way back when somebody had a mental issue or even retardation. They put them in the closet, or they would literally hide them away.
They would. And on the other hand, though, back then, if you had a family member who was mentally ill, you could get help for them. Doctors would listen to family. They would take consideration, and they'd listen to the person that was living there. And as much as I love HIPAA and I agree with HIPAA, people think that they have the right to speak to their significant other's doctor.
Mm-hmm.
No, you do. You can speak to that doctor. You can pick up the phone. You can have a phone call with that nurse. You can pick up the phone and have a phone call with anyone you choose. They might not be able to respond to you, but you can always pick up the phone call and have a conversation with them. And that way you're letting people know that there's an issue with somebody that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. We need to start reaching out to people and start reconnecting with each other in a positive light and saying, are you okay? We need to start reaching out and telling people, I'm proud of you. You know what? You've been through some crap. I'm proud of you. You know, you're doing good. Is there anything I can help you with?
Yeah.
You know, I see where you're struggling, but I see where you succeed.
That's something that doesn't happen.
No.
Not very often.
No, and people need to realize that they're not alone, because a lot of us feel alone. We're so isolated into social media. We're so isolated into our phones. We're so isolated into whatever distracts us from the reality of what's going on, because there is nothing positive in this world. So we end up having to, what do? You just isolate yourself. Who wants to go out in public if everybody's nasty? Who wants to go out and deal with people when they're mean? We got to change our attitudes towards anybody and towards ourselves, especially.
Yeah, I think if we started there, that might be a huge turnaround for everything.
I would love to see some people pull together, and even if it's just opening up a church again and having counseling sessions and having veterans get together, having people with depression get together and talk. You need to not feel alone. You need to feel that it's okay to have these feelings. It's just not okay to stay there in those feelings. And we have tools to work out of these feelings. I wish more churches would open up their doors again. We need to. COVID shut down those doors, and those doors need to be opened again. We have so much drug addiction and people committing suicide slowly. Nobody talks about the slow suicide. Nobody talks about the drug use that's slowly killing the person, because they don't have the courage to just up and do it. And they don't realize what they're doing, but they're killing themselves. And they'll sit there and tell you, oh, I'll never kill myself. But they'll go out to the bar. They'll go do a whole bunch of drugs. They'll go drink and get drunk and then get behind the wheel of the car. No, you have a suicidal frame of mind. And that needs to be addressed. You know, and that's where you need a friend to say, hey, dude, I know you're not okay. Let's go get help. Let's go to this counseling meeting. You know, I know this group of people. And the VFW, the Legion, and the Auxiliary try so hard to create those groups for veterans. And we need not only it for veterans, but we need it for the spouses too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what about if it was, a lot of veterans are, well, they're hard. And, you know, they're pretty well, their mind is in one place, and this is what I have to do. This is my job. This is what I have to do. Nothing else matters.
Survival.
And then when they get home, it's okay. So I'm still in this frame of mind, and it's not okay for me to go ask for help. But if it was more out there, you know, everybody doing it, they'd feel better doing it.
Right. Correct. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if the doors were open and churches said, okay, we have on this day, you know, we have veterans that need to go talk about something, and you have a buddy system, just like they do with AA, just like you do with your drug use, you know, counseling meetings and stuff like that. We need more of that. We need more people knocking on the doors. And the wives and the children need support too. I do believe if we could get the wives and the children support, or husbands, the spouses, if we can get spouses and children support, they'd be able to support their spouse better and get them help as well. Because how many of them feel hopeless, and how many of them feel like they're barely holding on? When you have somebody that has post-traumatic, they are so used to living in a high adrenaline state that all they can do is create high adrenaline states, and they don't know how to function outside of that. Now, we need better transition programs for some of these veterans coming through, and we need to look at their job qualifications and or their job specs and what they did coming in and out of the military and what they actually went through in battle. I know that they have the whole, we hold you at the barracks and you have X amount of time, and we give you your mental health check, and then we ship you out the door. There, just like with law enforcement, there needs to be continuous mental health checks. We need more people in that profession. And I think we don't have people in that profession anymore because their hands are tied with everything. What are we supposed to do? I worked in that profession for how many years? It is so hard. It is so difficult.
Yeah. What, when everybody says, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't talk about this, you can't suggest this for them, you can't. Well, then what do you do? We were to the point, and this is about as raw as it gets. We're to the point where we told the professionals that were working with us, we're fucking done. There's nothing we can do. We are fucking done. Nobody's helping. Nobody's doing anything. So what else are we going to do at this point?
And how guilty do you feel saying that? See, nobody talks about, okay, everybody goes, oh, that's such an awful thing to say. What got you to that point?
Yeah, nobody helps.
There's no help. I mean, there's only so much you can do as a human being. And then you live with the guilt of knowing that there's nothing that you can do. You have failed. You're not succeeding. And that guilt eats you alive. So what does that cause in you? A mental health problem.
Yeah. And 8 calls to a psychiatrist and they say, you know what, we'll get you in. We'll call you. No, they don't. And then when they make an appointment, you get there and they're like, your appointment's not. No, you didn't have an appointment. Excuse me? Here's the card. Yeah. No.
I think also I will always be the one to support the BFW, the Legion, and the auxiliary. These posts are shutting down. We need to start encouraging these guys to start joining these posts. They need to start going to Congress. They need to start doing their job and fighting for each other. They need to continue that brotherhood. They need to continue that family, that military bond. They need each other, and that's what they need to understand, is that they need each other. Because I'm not going to be able to understand what you went through. I can be empathetic and I can understand up to a point. I can rationalize it for you. I can do everything, but I wasn't there. I didn't experience it, and I'm sorry. I'm so limited. But if they have somebody that they can talk to that experienced it, I'm a mother who lost a child to suicide. Surely I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face. You'll never understand it until it happens to you, and hopefully it never happens to you. But until it happens, you don't understand it. There's no comprehending.
No, that's like, that's one of the worst things that I think, and that's just me, to say, I know what you went through. No, you don't. Even if it's the same exact thing. No, you don't. Because our minds are different. Our thoughts are different when it happens. Our the way of coping is different when it happens. So even if it was the same exact thing, no, you don't.
I always say, I understand your point of view. I can definitely see that. I went through something similar, and this is how I dealt with it. And I always point out similarities. And then we talk about, you and I just did on our trip, which was about mental health. Our whole road trip was mental health. And struggling to get somebody I love so very much help, that I'm stonewalled at every chance. And I'm fortunate, and we're all fortunate in this situation, that we're all on the same page and we're all working together. But it took how long to get this far, and look at how far it took to get this far, and look at how much effort it took to get to this point. And one person can't do it. No. We have how many people, Adrienne, on this and working, and that's the thing, is people don't know how to do it anymore. People don't know how to get people true help anymore. And I think that there needs to be more wives and husbands that are spouses that join the FRG when your spouse is in. And you guys need to come up with programs like this. You need to come up with a support system. You guys need to teach each other. If this is what happens, this is how you write an affidavit. This is how you submit it to the court. This is what you submit to the doctors. People need to be taught.
And I think at the end of this,
and law enforcement,
I think we need to, with 2 different aspects of it. Civilian life, as far as your friends, your things like that. And let's do this, the law part of it, what you would do. And then if it's a it doesn't even have to be a spouse, just a friend, somebody the steps, the people you can call, the things you can do. Have that on a document. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. And even our numbers on there. I mean, I don't care.
I agree. I agree 100%. We need to. There was this book, and I wish I could find it, and it was about the hardest job in the military, the hardest MOS. Is that not of any of the service members, but of the one that stays home?
Mm-hmm.
And the one that stays home needs to be better prepared, because they also need to understand that they married the military as well.
There was a man today. I heard Zach say it. I didn't hear exactly what was going on, or exactly which person. I think I know who it was, but his saying, and I think you'd relate to this, is he said, my wife has to come home. When I come home, she has to be prepared to meet a new husband every time I come home, because I'm never the same. And not that it's always a bad thing, just different.
Okay, and as the wife, who prepares me?
Yeah.
Who gives me these things? Yeah, sure, we have a checklist in the FRG, and we have our buddy systems and things like that. We need to do a better job after you get out. I have my military sisters. I don't know where I would be for the past 20 some years without them. Those girls are my solid, they're my rock, and I have lost a few of them, and it's broken my heart. And it kills me. But you know what? I can still remember the day that their kids were born. I can still tell the stories. I can still walk them through everything. I know what their mother was like. She was my military sister, and we were a family. And you need to keep those bonds, because shit happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Jeremy, he just made a comment. He said, it's extremely hard to ask for help. Even when I was fresh out of the hospital, I only asked for help one time when I needed a ride, outside of asking for therapy and medicines. And he did. We had to, you remember that? We had to push him. It's like, what? And we did have
system.
We did have one girl that was able to be there quite often, which I'm very thankful for her. But, really outside of that, you really had to check in on him, because we don't know. We didn't know his frame of mind. We didn't know,
I was worried. I was terrified.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I didn't say that to him until much later, but, it's, I did, you said that, and I called him. Like, hey, maybe somebody's saying something I'm not, because I might be too close to the situation. I've been talking to you every day. So what's going on?
Yeah. Because literally the people that are closest don't see it. And I know why we don't see it. Is because we've learned to adapt to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good. That's why going to an outside counseling group, or going out and meeting with friends in a positive environment. Go play golf. Go play putt-putt golf. Go be a kid. Go hang out at the park. Go play tackle football. Go get some physical activity. Go get some fresh air. Go hang out with the boys. Go hang out with the girls. Go do something, but stay close to your military family. Get together. Relive those memories in a positive light, because not everything was negative out of that experience. You guys been through some crap, but really pull back some of those funny stories. Remember when Hernandez did this, or remember when, so-and-so did that, or, hey, you know what I miss about him? He had the best mac and cheese recipe, or, when we used to still, the WWF WrestleMania or whatever the big monthly thing was off the black box, we'd all get together at the house, and we'd all, have a potluck. Remember when we rolled pennies, living in Hawaii, trying to buy cigarettes, and we were like 18, go relive those fun memories. Don't live the crappy ones. You can touch on the crappy ones, and it's healthy to touch on the crappy ones, because you process it every single time, and it is healthy to talk about it. You do need to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage you to talk about it with the people that you go through with it. I mean, just no matter how you feel about the person, they went through the same thing, and they're feeling similar to you. Because
what do they
different doesn't mean that.
Yeah. What do they have for, like, people that aren't married to a military person, or, as far as, I think they can also join the BFW, things like that, and help them too, right? They don't have to be a spouse.
No. So the ladies auxiliary has now opened up to be the auxiliary. So just as long as your loved one, you have a direct relation, has served overseas, you can join the auxiliary.
Yeah.
The VFW, you have had to have served overseas, and then the Legion's open. So join it. We have enough to fill that VFW slot. We have enough to fill all those posts and to create even more.
Mm-hmm.
Fill that auxiliary. That auxiliary is your support system. If you are a family member and if you are a spouse, join that auxiliary and support that Legion and support that VFW. Support these people. I mean, that goes for law enforcement too. You have fire department auxiliary. You have woman, the spouse auxiliary for the fire department and law enforcement. I encourage that too. I encourage this for law enforcement all the way around, border patrol, military, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Your emergency response and your first response needs therapy too. They need your support. This is not the time to turn our backs on them. This is the time where we got to dig down deep and we got to tell these guys that we're proud of them and we support them because they've got their backs against the wall.
Oh yeah.
And we're all terrified.
Yeah. And they hear so much of
what is going on,
or, you don't like this race, or you do this to this race, and it's not even it's like, there was something, I don't even remember what state, but it was a minority that went against, not a minority. And so it turned into a big thing. Come on. It's a criminal's a criminal. They took him down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sure, there are bad ones out there. Of course there are. But the good ones usually band against them and push them on out.
Right. And that's the ownership. That's the therapy. That's I feel so bad for law enforcement. How many times do these guys watch somebody get beaten down over and over and over? It's awful to know that you're going to go back to that house 2 days later and you don't know if that woman's going to be dead or if they're going to be alive, or what condition they're going to be in, or that child. Why? Because there is no mental health help. So if there's no mental health help for you, and there's no mental health help for me, or for the veterans, where's the law enforcement supposed to go?
Yeah.
And it's tragic. More law enforcement. We're going to have an uptick in law enforcement and military suicides if something doesn't happen right now, and we need to support these people.
Yeah, right before the show, Zach said the last count was in 2021. That was the actual last one of 81 a day. But that's civilian. That's everything. That's just
and it's more now. And look at the drug use. I mean, look at the rate of alcoholism, look at the rate of addiction, look at the rate of self-harm, look at the rate of this, look at the rate of that. It all leads to suicide. It all does. A fractured mind is a fractured mind, and it's a broken mind. And if we can't find the place to go heal.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem is nobody wants to go when it first starts because they're like, it's just phase I'm going through, or that's what they're told. Or, they don't have a friend like I have that says, bitch, look at what's going on. Let's sit and talk about this a minute. Does this sound like, or somebody tells a story. Somebody goes, the hell? Oh yeah. Let's tell this story. Does that sound familiar? It's like, oh shit.
Right. But check your friends.
If a lot of people don't have that because either their friends are too scared to say it or they just don't care enough to say it.
If you love somebody, there is no excuse. There is no if, ands, or buts. Love is unconditional, and you do what it takes to help that person. And you have to be honest with that person, and you have to be real with that person every step of the way, no matter what. And then if you are the person that is getting real, you have to hold no judgment at all. that is my best advice. And you love them, and you love them through that moment, and you have to love them enough because they don't love themselves enough in that moment. And you have to give them that little bit of extra. You want that person. When we embarked on our mental health journey, my ex-husband, who's military, asked me something. And he said, "Why are you doing this, Janice?" And I said, "I know that I cannot save her, but the only thing I can do is help her save herself. And if I can't even help her save herself, I know that I laid eyes on the situation. I can confirm what is going on and pick up and go." Adrienne and I just picked up and go. I got a phone call. I called her. You know what? It doesn't matter about your job. It doesn't matter what's going on. You have somebody that you love. You need to go help that person. That person is alone. You put yourself in that person's shoes. When I showed up on that person's doorstep, they might not have been exactly happy to see me, but deep down inside, they know that I showed up because I love them and I care, and I was going to make a stand for it. Don't be talk, be action. I don't want to hear your bark. Show me how bad your bite is, and go help that friend. Go put your money where your mouth is, because I tell everybody I would do it in a heartbeat for you. Absolutely. I love you enough that I would put my life on pause to go help you save yourself. Absolutely. My children will understand that I will be back. My significant other understands I will be back. And I have their support. And if you have a spouse that's like that, you need to support that spouse. Don't make it overboard, and make it a legit cause. Don't be like, "Oh, I think they're going to do it." No, you have your solid facts, you get your stuff together, you get your shit, and you go. That way you can be there and you can write a statement and say, "I laid eyes on the situation. It's not just hearsay." You put it down on paper and you submit it. You submit it to everybody. When I wrote my affidavit on this, I submitted it to everyone. Everyone. I don't care if you submit it to the doctors, lawyers, courts. I don't care who you submit it to. You submit it to their adult services. You submit it to anybody that you can get a hold of. You submit it, and you make it clear that you are in fear of that person endangering themselves. You repeat it, of harming others. They have the capability of doing this, and you lay out why. And you repeat.
Then when you submit it, you CC so that they know everybody else got it too. Because if they're the only ones that think they got it, it's just going to go under the table. "Oh yeah, okay, we'll deal with it later," and it moves on.
Pick up the phone and call. Kind of like when you used to do job interviews. You'd pick up the phone and call, right? Pick up the phone and call. Because if you don't call, emails go unnoticed. Make a stand. Be about action. Be about it. As my kids say. Just be about it.
Yeah. And, you did what you needed to do and got it done.
And
still had a good time.
Right. And be honest with yourself on what you can handle. I was honest. I said, "You know what, Adrienne, I can't do this by myself. I literally cannot. I know that I am going to break, and I am going to need my best friend by my side to let me know that I am doing okay, because I am honest with myself. So if you're going to do something like this, make sure you have a support system for yourself in place, and make sure that you're honest with yourself on what you can and cannot handle, and do everything with love. Don't ever do anything out of spite, nothing. And realize that the person that you are helping and that has the mental health problem and that is suicidal or is in a psychosis, which is so much danger. So many veterans go into a psychosis. It's unbelievable. Geez Louise, just understand that they're still human and they don't understand what's going on, and they're scared too. And they're trapped somewhere inside of that mind and they can't get out, and they need help.
And they're not going to welcome it with open arms, guaranteed.
No, they're going to fight every step of the way, because the only thing that they are is a dog backed into a corner. So you don't go up to a dog backed into the corner and shove your face right into its face. It's going to bite your face off. You approach it slowly and you work your way into it, and you just continuously let that person know how much you love them and how proud you are of them, and remind yourself of it every day too. Tell yourself good job,
But
because your mental health matters too.
let's think about how many people actually have a friend like that. There's not many. There really is not, because I'm, well, we're going to say 40 something. Until I met you, that didn't exist. That didn't exist.
Because people haven't been taught community. Community, pay it forward. It doesn't take one person, it takes a community.
Mhm.
And it takes a community to be empathetic and to grow empathy and to learn. And I had the benefit of learning what a true friend was. I watched true friends from an older generation. I learned from an older generation on how you should be towards other people. And I learned empathy. And empathy is huge. And I learned community, and I learned what paying it forward truly was. And I watched farmers and ranchers and my military friends, and we always did that. So for me, I've never known what it's like to not be that type of friend. And I don't know what it's like to not strive for that type of friend.
Well, those of us that didn't grow up that way at all. Of course, I grew up in church, and yes, those could be some of the most judgmental, sadistic people that you ever see. And in our little community, it wasn't quite like that. But you hear, oh, look at this, or look at her. So I figured everybody's that way. So that's how I grew up. And then I was like, oh shit, that can be turned around too. And you got some real hard life lessons real quick.
And you made a good point. And change needs to start with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cliche, and everybody says it, but change truly needs to start with you internally. You need to heal you, and you need to love you first. Don't toss away your past. You and I argue about this. You don't delete the pictures. You don't do this. You don't do that. Your past happened. Let's deal with it. Let's talk about it. Okay. You know what? You're sitting right in front of me. Good job.
Yeah.
I don't care if you were homeless and you were on the street and you haven't showered for 6 months and you are still living. Good job. I am proud of you. Now, what's the next step?
Yeah.
What's your next goal? How do we move up out of this? And work with the person.
Yeah.
And every baby step that they take, tell them good job, and remind yourself good job too. If somebody is woken the next day and they have made that effort, good job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of you.
And we see that everywhere. I mean, and they touched on that today. I was listening to part of it. Homelessness. How did they get there? Why are they there? I've heard 1,000 excuses from some people of, oh, well, I can't get my, Social Security card. I can't get my, okay, I understand that is difficult. I do get that. Because anybody who's been through a house fire or had something stolen, yes, it's difficult. It is not easy to get all that stuff. And you do need that for a job.
Mm-hmm.
But what about these people that, come by and say, I'll pay you X amount for coming and helping with the yard or whatever. And they would rather stand on the street. That's not that they don't want to. I think some people, I don't know everybody's situation, but some people it's because
it's easy.
Yeah. And they're not committed to anything because they don't know if they're going to live tomorrow, and they don't care if they do.
Well, and then you have the people that just stand on the street corner and they're not really homeless, and
Right.
they're peddled. So how do you know if you're truly helping somebody or not? You have the people that come up to you in Walmart and ask you to buy roses or something like that. And I'm the type of person, I look for their handler. Okay, because I'm not stupid. I know what's going on. I grew up in New Mexico on the border. I know what's up. So I'm looking for their handler, and my spouse is looking at me like, oh no, no, we're not doing this. And I'm like, yeah, we're doing this. We're going to find this SOP. And I will find that handler and I will make sure that I know what they are driving. And I will, law enforcement, there's human trafficking and stuff like that. So homelessness, some of it around here for us is not even homelessness. It's just people wanting to make money. And that drives me crazy. And that's another thing is people that are using the system are getting away with it. And we need to make that stop because the people that truly need it.
Right.
And I am tired of seeing tent city. Okay. I am tired of seeing the homelessness. All right. I am sick of it. We need to clean it up and we need to figure it out. And you know what? We used to have programs where they used to work and they used to make money picking up trash on the sides of the roads, cleaning up the parks, doing this, doing that. Why can't they do that anymore? You can't just give somebody, I have a saying in my house, if you teach a man how to fish, he will go play with his fly all day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That means a couple of different things in my home.
Yeah.
But truthfully, you look at it from the standpoint, you got to teach them how to fish. You got to make them earn something. You got to give them motivation, because if you just give something to somebody all the time, it's just there's no worth. There's no self-worth.
Yep.
And I think that's what's wrong with today's society is everything is given and there is no self-worth with earning it. So we need to give these people motivation. How do you motivate these people? Well, you need to start by cleaning up the people that aren't really in need, or you know what I mean, and put them in jail and make them pay a price. And then turn around and help these people. And if you want to build a homeless shelter, that's beautiful. But don't just build a homeless shelter and expect them to sleep there. What are they going to do for a job? Why can't we have a mission-like thing anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why can't they earn their bed and have a garden? And I'm not saying it because I want them to work. No, I want them to have self-worth. Yeah. I want them to have something to motivate them to wake up the next morning going, you know what? I found out I just like cooking. I'm living at this homeless shelter. I've had nothing to look forward to my whole life. I'm getting these counseling services and I'm growing my own food with these guys and I'm creating a bond with them. We have addiction therapy centers instead of putting them on the streets and letting them do drugs on the streets. When did that become acceptable? And I am calling that out because that is part of our mental health crisis. How many of those are veterans? Yeah, that makes me sick.
Yeah.
And it's acceptable. Drug use is not acceptable that way. I'm sorry. If you want to be a drug addict, go to your own home.
Yeah.
Don't go on the street corner and do it. And then when you lose everything, we need a place for them to go.
Yeah.
We need a center for them, a mission-like center.
Right. Right.
And not jail. A mission.
Yeah. Okay, so that being said, so where do we start? What do we do?
Call your Congress. Throw this idea out there. Open this up. See if we can't find it. I worked at King Veterans Home, which is one of our largest veterans homes in the nation. And you guys, beautiful. There's 3 miles of underground tunnels. We have 99. We have just about 1,000 residents, members, not residents.
Its own town.
Yep. It's its own town. It has its own zip code. It has its own this. It has its own that. The one benefit that King has, because it is in Wisconsin, is it has a homeless shelter attached to it that has services attached to it. Mm-hmm. Our veterans don't go without in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. We have a place for them.
Right.
We need more places like that. And not just for veterans. So hit your Congress, hit your VFW, go hit up your churches. I know we talk a lot of crap about churches, but you know what? It may be the change. Yeah. You don't like the way that church is being ran? You know what? You go in there with your little light and you let it shine. What do I tell Evelina all the time? That song. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine because nobody's going to dim this. And you go in there with a positive attitude and you go in there and you do everything with love. And go create a plan. You want to get together with me? Hit me up on Facebook. I'll help you. I'll give you some ideas. I don't have enough time to do all of these, but I will be more than willing to throw my support behind anybody who is willing to start a mission for homelessness, and a true mission.
Yeah.
You know, same with foster kids. Same with all these kids up on the street. You know what? Get these teenagers up off the street. How many of these are kids? How many of these people are sex trafficked? How many human traffickers are coming through and picking up these people, these women that are homeless?
Yeah.
And promising them a different life. We have an immigration problem in this country, and people don't understand that it's going to lead to more mental health. It's going to lead to more human trafficking. It's going to lead to more suicide. It's going to lead to more drug use. And then these veterans especially are going, what did we fight for?
Exactly. I know that's when they look at this world right now, they have to be disgusted.
I know they are. I hear it. What did we fight for? What is this coming to? I lost my best friend for this. You know, like, are you serious? Yeah, and now we're in the crisis that we're in right now. Financially, the world is in its crisis, and these guys are just sitting here going, I just want peace.
Yeah.
And they deserve it. We all do.
Yeah.
We really do.
Okay, so let's see what your idea would be on this. You've already seen the park behind the house. It's full of homeless. Now, granted, they do once a week if it's not inconveniently cold, which that's when they need it the most, but they'll cook for them. Okay, great. They'll bring them meals out here and cook for them. What else can we do for them? They're in our backyard, literally.
Go out there and talk. What do I do with you?
I probably should not approach them that way for a while.
I'm serious. So what do I do with you?
Yeah. But,
See,
talking to them, but what?
Ask them. Have a real conversation with them. They are real human beings.
Oh, yeah. Most of them really
give you their story. They'll give you their story. But ask them, what could we do to help you motivate yourself? What do you need? You need food. You need shelter. And get some honest opinions. Your homelessness have ideas. Do you think that they want to live in a tent city? The true ones?
They don't.
No, they don't. And you can separate it out. If they have mental health issues and they need special counseling, you can go to this mission. If you have addiction, you can go to this mission. If you are homeless and you have post-traumatic, you can go to this one. If you were homeless and you were battered, you can go to this one. If you were a child, you can go to this one. We used to have those types of places.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We need them again. And they don't need to be government ran. They need to be church ran. They need to be community ran, not government ran. Don't look at the government for help. I wish I had enough money to pull together to buy a place and start this and to show people how it works. I did it with kids. I did it with troubled kids. If I can do it with troubled kids, I can do it with troubled adults. Because we're all just troubled kids deep down inside.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Yeah, childhood trauma. And then you just pile more trauma into it, and then you just build more trauma into it. And you're right. People didn't learn how to be a community because we were latchkey kids. My generation to your generation were latchkey kids. They came home to no mom. They came home to no dad. But we came home to MTV, right? And we came home to the real world. And we came home to married children.
Yeah.
So who raised us?
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, some of us got locked out until mom came home.
Right.
So that led to running around places you shouldn't be going.
Always there. Nobody was there at home.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you lost a parent or whether your parents were divorced or both of them were working, we fractured our families. We fractured our home. And when we fractured our home and we fractured our families, we fractured the church and we fractured us as a society, as human beings. We fractured our kingdom, our specific animal kingdom. We created an unbalance because we have this thing called intelligence and free will. And we think that we are smarter than our basic genetic programming of being animals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we lost our empathy, and we lost our ability to care for one another and to
We
care
did.
about what genocide is. And we stopped teaching, and you stop teaching, and you stop caring.
Yeah.
You start making everything dangerous, and everything's too hard to talk about. So it just gets shoved underneath the rug. Well, somebody, sweetheart, is going to come by, and then it's going to be a big lump underneath that rug, and it's going to need to be dealt with. Well, there's nothing to deal with it. I don't know. It's an endless cycle.
It is. It is. But, we have a couple of different mentalities from what I see just on Facebook. One is, fuck it, we can't do anything about it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The other is, let's just make fun of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the good thing to do. Let's just make fun of them. So it makes us feel better.
Okay, I am big on prayer. Okay, I believe no matter what you believe, you pray. All right, whether you meditate, whether you do anything or not, right? What kills me is the people that go, I'm going to pray for this. Absolutely, pray for it. But what else are you going to do about it? Don't expect God to come down and just wave his magic hand. No, he gave us free will, okay? And he expects us to fix it. It's kind of like when you have two kids and they're fighting. They have to learn how to work it out, or they're not going to learn how to work it out with anybody else, right? So what do? Do you just let them continue to fight and do the same thing over and over again?
I picked one up and the other one up by the back of the shirt, put him out the back door and said, don't come back till it's fixed. Not one hit was hit. It come back fixed.
That's right. So what do you think that God's doing? You're sending up all of your complaints. You're sending up all of this. What's the last time you were grateful for everything around you? And I'm going to preach. Screw it. I'm going to preach right now. Be grateful for what is around you. Be grateful for the fact that we are still breathing. All right. Be thankful for the fact that we are still free. Be thankful for now. You got to make the change yourself.
Yeah.
You really have to make the change yourself. You have to change you. You want to make a difference, change you. And if everybody just changed themselves, then the world would make a change at once. It's as simple as that. It's the easiest.
We have 4 minutes. So this is our second year doing this. First year was kind of a trial run, and okay. We had a year to think about it. All right. Now we've been through it recently. Okay.
And I'm going through it now.
Right.
I'm going through it to where it's not just the one that I went to back home for,
right?
But I'm literally living through it with my own personal experience. And somebody that he's committing suicide slowly. And unfortunately, he's tuned everybody out. He shut everybody down. And there's literally nothing that we can do about it. And there comes a point where we have to take a deep breath and we have to go, okay, we just have to love him where he's at. We love him enough to say, okay, and it's hard. And in this case with me, I have to be the support for this point.
So between now and next year, let's see what we can do. Let's see.
I don't want another wife. I don't want another wife in my predicament.
No,
I don't want another mother in her predicament. I don't want this for anybody.
Or a mother in the predicament you were in a few years ago.
I have lost all the way around. This is not the place to be.
So let's see between now and next year what we can do, and we can come back here and say what we did.
I think this year is going to be kind of rough, but I'm moving closer, and maybe we can start getting something in the works.
Yep.
And I would love to hear back from anybody out there. If you guys have an idea on how to start a mission and how to start something like this legally, and we can get it going, a community garden, whatever it takes. Have every community have a garden for your homeless and your veterans, and have these services out there. Let's start these counseling services again. Let's open these church doors and let's fill these congregations. Let's start there. That's what I'm going to do. I think I've already started it. I've hit that church door again. hit that church door and make the positive light. I don't care how you feel about the church. If you go in there with the good intentions and you go in there with your light and you go in there with enough people and enough people walk through those doors again, change will happen.
Yep. All right. So let's see what we can do. And
I love everybody. I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, dear, for all you guys did, giving me that hour break. I'm going to be honest with you. That hour was the shortest damn hour of the day.
Did you blink and it went by, baby?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I went and I took out the trash and watched Ilene pick up after the dog because I couldn't move. She goes, "Do you smell that?" And I'm like going, "Oh God, no."
No, it's not me this time.
No, thank God it was the big dog, not this dog. So, but I want to thank you, ladies, for bringing your thoughts and everything to this, because, like I said, it's important that this is something that every single one of us take part in. This is,
it affects everyone.
It's not a you thing, it's not a me thing, it's a we thing. We need to make sure that we take care of each other and take care of others who need our help. So I greatly appreciate you guys all being here.
Zach, I appreciate everything you do. Thank you very, very much for everything.
Well, this is what we're going to be doing this until we lose no more. I mean, it's not enough, but it's what we've got, and maybe this can be, who knows, if enough of us get together. And let's be honest, this is better than it was last year. Every year, we're in 2 years, and it's moving along quick. It's moving along great. So,
well, for everybody watching, I love you guys where you're at. Remember to love yourselves first. And I'm proud of you for making it through the day. And I'm proud of you for tomorrow morning when you wake up. And I'll love you then. And I love you guys. Zach, Adrienne.
We love you, and we will talk to you soon.
I'm proud of you guys.
All right, let's do this. We're proud of you. You, because you're pushing everybody.
I try. I try. You guys have a blessed night.
You too.
All right, everyone. That was my wife and Jan, and we are now being joined, in which, of course, I got to change my name, but yeah, I don't care for right I'm so tired. That's been a long day. I'll be Adrienne for a couple minutes, but being joined by great friend to the program, Ilene Jones, and new friend to the program, Paula Westbrook. How are you two doing?
I'm doing great today.
Doing
Uh,
good, thank you.
yeah, Paula, we are going to start with you because you were introduced to us by Ilene, and you recently suffered a loss, and you said something to me the other night that really stuck in my head, and it was about, and I think it's really poignant, and I was wondering if you can kind of repeat what we were talking about.
Well, thank you for having me. Um, well, November 30th, I lost my best friend, my my sister. I mean, she and I weren't biologically related, but we were as close as sisters could be. Um, my my friend Kathleen took her life. Uh, she shot herself, and I found her about an hour and a half later. And Kathleen suffered for years uh, with PTSD, bipolar, depression. Um, most people, when they think of veterans in crisis, they think about the guy down the street that's got an arsenal of weapons hiding in a closet somewhere, and at some point having some sort of police standoff, and that's not who Kathleen was at all. Kathleen was probably the most beautiful, kind soul and gentle soul that I ever knew. I was a better person for knowing her. And Kathleen, you know, like I said, she gave to everybody, and when she would walk into a room, the room would light up and everybody would just gravitate towards her because she had just that kind of energy, you know. So, everybody thinks about, these vets, oh, well, you can spot it. No, you can't. Most of the time, you can't. And if you think, well, I can tell if they're going to do it or not, no, you won't. In my experience, and I've lost two friends now due to suicide that are vets. And it was an impulse in the moment. A lot of people said, oh, she's been planning it for weeks. She's been planning it weeks. Let me tell you something. There's another thing I have learned about having friends that are vets. They plan their whole lives to die. All right. Everything's always organized. Everything's always in its place. Everything's labeled. Everybody that they're leaving things to, everything, all the instructions are always out there. Kathleen bought a gun that Friday before her death and didn't tell me. Kathleen was never one to own a gun, but I think she knew that, well, she'd been having some trouble with her neighbors, and she'd been talking about it for a while, getting a gun for protection. I didn't think much of it, but she bought a gun on Friday. And when that following Wednesday, she took her own life. Kathleen was in the best place that she had been in a long time. She was in a new relationship. She started a new job. She'd just gotten a new puppy who she was totally in love with. She was so happy. And like I said, I don't think, it was a week in the planning or anything like that. In fact, I often wonder if it were in the house, would she have done it? She had her good days, she had her bad days. But I also think she was, and I've talked to this to some other friends of mine that work in the psych field. We feel like she was in a psychosis leading up to that for about that 48 hours leading up to her death, because things didn't make sense, things that she told people, things that she did. And she and I talked every single day. The day before her death was the first time I had not talked to her. All right, that day. And she left me the funniest message joking around on video chat at 4 a.m. that morning before her death, which that wasn't uncommon, because we're night owls and stuff. So, a lot of times we are up at that time, but we'd leave each other messages. And as far as I knew, she had gone to work. And I thought, well, I'll just get a hold of her when she got off work. And when she got off, at 5 o'clock came around, and I started messaging her and calling her. And I was like, where are you? This is not like you. And and then it rolled into 7 o'clock that night. I still hadn't heard anything. So, yeah, I started to panic. So I went over there. I had a key to the apartment, and I opened the door, and she had one of these things on the door that jammed the door, so you couldn't get in. Well, I saw that she was on the couch, and I knew she wasn't responding, so I called 911. And then after I got the phone with 911, I kicked the door in and got in, and that's when I found her. Didn't even realize what she had done at first. And I ran up to her and looked in her eyes, and that's when I knew she was gone. And then, because the lighting was dim, and I looked down, and there was the gun in her lap. I had saved Kathleen about 9 months before that. She had OD'd, and I found her, and I got her up on her feet, eating, drinking coffee, everything else. I didn't know what she had taken. I didn't know that she had OD'd until she told me the next morning. I was up with that girl all night and didn't let her go to sleep. And then it was the next day she admitted to what she had done. So anyway, like I said, you're not going to see it coming. A lot of times they're not going to give you any kind of hint. You're not going to see the telltale signs. They're not going to act psychotic. They're not going to have a standoff with the cops. She was, it was just, she decided to just pick that gun up and take her life. It was just that quick. She did have everything set out, and she had a to-do list for me. Paula, water the plants. Paula, take care of Traveler. Paula, the mailbox key is here. Make sure you gather the mail. Tell my daughter I love her. It was a to-do list, like she was going out of town. Of course, I didn't see that note. Till after, the police showed her daughter, and then her daughter showed it to me. But she got all that together like she was fixing to take a trip, sat on that couch, and took her life. It's all in that moment.
Yeah,
it's not
we had somebody earlier, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. We had somebody earlier, and I want to get your opinion on this, because the words in the moment really ring true here. If they've got these new gun locks, gun cases that take and lock, and they got photographs for people that you have to look at that photograph before you unlock the gun case. In this situation, do you think that could have helped?
No. She loved Traveler. That was her puppy. She had Traveler with her. She didn't put Traveler in another room. She had Traveler with her. He was sleeping next to her body. Okay, she loved that little dog. And when she was in that moment, she wasn't thinking about Traveler. She wasn't thinking about me. She wasn't thinking about her daughter or her boyfriend or anybody else. It was a robotic motion. Okay, you can put a lock on a box. She would have unlocked it, got it out, and sat it next to her until she got ready. I was blowing up her phone. She knew I was trying to contact her. That's a moving picture there. It wouldn't have helped in Kathleen's situation. I don't think.
There are, and first off, I'm, my heart breaks for you. It truly does. It's a very, very tough story for you to tell. We can, I can see that. It's a very hard story for us to hear, but these are the kind of stories that we need people to understand that this is not, this, your friend could be any of us, any veteran out there who's contemplating that, you know what, things are bad right now, and we need to, maybe I can't go through with this. One of the points that we're trying to make on this day is you're leaving behind people who care, who love you. You may think that your life is better, or people's lives are better without you, but that's not true. That's, statement I made earlier, and Ilene, I want to bring you in on this statement I made earlier that I really, I didn't mean to be smart or anything. You know me, that's it's hard for me to be smart anyway, but no matter how softly you walk, you're still going to leave footprints. And people who think they have nothing, they're still people who care. You have your own connection to military service.
Yes.
Can you go on ahead and let us know?
So now my son, well, of course, being raised by someone in the Air Force who did suffer from PTSD from Vietnam. My son actually graduated into the Marines several years, 5 years ago now or something. And one thing you never think about is not just when you see war. Yes. Is it more 20 times more traumatic? Yes. But there was actually a kid at Paris Island during boot camp that committed suicide. And it's because now obviously there was a lot more going on with him than just boot camp itself. But it's when a lot of these people join the military, they're still babies. And a lot of times it's their first time away from home. It's their first time, away from mom. And also it's mama's first time or daddy's first time away from their kids. And it is a lot of, a lot of anguish, both sides. And then you've got, sometimes they don't get to come home. They go straight off to Japan or wherever, and they don't see their parents for weeks. And so I think a lot of times that loneliness builds into them at the beginning, and it kind of goes from there a lot of times. I know my father, he was very abusive not long after Vietnam. And I learned real quick that when you've got military people, you don't tiptoe through the house. I used to try to sneak in the house. You don't tiptoe. You make as much noise as possible. They are trained to focus on someone who's trying to sneak around. And I just like your friend Paula, I can't fathom that type of mentality that your brain does not shut off when you go to sleep. I've had another friend of mine that would wake up and, I mean, just try to fight in the middle of the night. And it was all because he was going back to, those times. That's a lot to put in anybody's head. I mean, from training into obviously, if you saw stuff you didn't need to see. And I get that. I mean, they're doing that for us. And so we need to do stuff for them. I go to the VA, go see my dad. He's at the nursing home up here at the VA hospital. And there are so many of those vets who don't have family or loved ones that come and visit. Several years back, I went and bought a bunch of just socks, deodorant, toothbrushes, things like that, and just gave little gift bags to everyone that I got with the nurses, because my dad's been there for like 8 or 9 years. But I said, who doesn't have family that comes to see them? And I made now, of course, if they had roommates, I made sure that the roommate got some, but I made sure everyone who didn't have family had just a little care package, because sometimes we forget about them sometimes, and that's got to stop.
We're treating this, because this is our second year, we're treating this kind of like it's a holiday or something like that. But this is just a wake up day is really what this is. And I agree with you, Eileen. I truly do. This is, and Paula, I also agree with you on, you know what? Anybody who calls and says that, you can tell when somebody's going to snap, BS. No, you can't.
Most of the times it's the ones that do that.
Yeah, there's times I'm the biggest jerk on earth. That doesn't mean I'm going to snap. It means I'm in a bad freaking mood. That's all it means. It doesn't, there's times I'm depressed. It happens. We can't tell unless they tell us. And look, they're not going to tell you if they don't feel comfortable. You know that, Paula. We discussed this. They are trained to shut up and take it. And this isn't the days of MacArthur and Patton when you used to get slapped around for being a wimp. We're not in those days, but we're still in the days of, you've got this stigma, you've got this thing that I'm tougher because I'm in the service. That doesn't mean that they don't want to be loved. That doesn't mean that they don't want people to listen, right?
They got to know how they have to have, even if it's just one person in this whole world that they can trust, whether or not it's a fellow soldier or just a best friend or somebody, okay? And the knee-jerk reaction when they start talking about things, that hey, you need to talk to your mental health professional. The first thing people want to do is go check you in at the VA. I'm going to tell you something. All right. My friend begged me not to take her to the VA, begged me, do not, and she couldn't tell her psych professional what was going on. She told me more than she told the psych professional. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of training, but I was what she had. And in the end, in a way, that was a double-edged sword, because in the end, if she had talked to me that last 24 hours, she knew I would have picked up on things, and she was going through, whatever it was mentally, but I always knew when she was off. She was bipolar, and when she was, on one of her highs, I was the only one that could bring her off that high. Talk her down for making serious life-altering decisions sometimes. But they need just that one person. But the thing about it is, we need to make sure they're taking their medicines. When they cleaned Kathleen's apartment, we had to clean it after her death, but when I let her family in, to go through her effects, they found that she had about 4 months worth of mood stabilizers that she hadn't been taking. Why wouldn't anybody on top of that? How come? When she stayed here with me, she stayed here at my house for a month and a half after the first time she tried to commit suicide, and I found her. I was right there every day watching her take her meds. What are you going to do when they do get their own place and they're on their own? There's nobody there that's making sure they're taking their meds. I don't know what the answer is, but we got to figure it out to make sure that they are taking their medication.
It is really hard though to micromanage an adult, and
it is.
But I completely agree with you. I mean, I don't know how. Obviously, I don't know how your friend would have taken like a gentle nudge every night. Hey, did you take your meds? I know how most adults would take it. It's like going, Christ, this is the only reason why you're calling me. It's like, why don't you go and bug somebody else for a night? Leave me alone, and it would get to be an annoyance.
No,
It has to be the right person.
Yeah.
now, Paula, I want to say something based on something you said. You said that you didn't have the training and all like the psychologist did or psychiatrist, whichever. And but you had something that that person did not. You cared and you had the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes is what you need more than someone to talk to.
Yeah. They need to feel safe with you. And she felt safe with me. She opened up to me about things she had never told anyone, her family, even her mental health professional. I heard some horrific stories of things that she went through. I think because she and I have had some similar traumas, I opened up about some of my stuff to her and she'd open up to me. It was kind of a back and forth type of thing. They got to have that person that they can trust and identify with. And it's not going to be your kid or it's not going to be your spouse. You don't know who it's going to be. But when you find that person that they can connect with, please let that person do what they need to do to help. Let's put your pride aside because, I know as a husband or a wife, you feel like, well, damn, why can't they confide in me? I'm their husband, I'm their wife, but it's not about that.
I think sometimes they feel like they got to be that strong person.
Right.
And they don't. I mean, like Zach was saying, yes, they are sent through all this training to, basically dehumanize them and to bring them back up to be a unit. But you're still a person. You still got the feelings. You've still got all that. And, I think that's part of the problem. I mean, it's part now, and don't get me wrong. I do feel that some of the training and all this is definitely necessary because it does protect when you're off. And again, thank you. Whoever has been in the military, thank you. Whether you've seen service or, seen stuff or not. I mean, just the idea that you could mean something.
Well, they train them and they give them all the same basic training, okay? Mm-hmm. They don't give you unique training for this. That comes after, okay? And then they go and they do their service and then they come home and they're done with the military. But the problem is somebody doesn't go in, nobody can go in and turn that switch off. It's like you said, it's forever. It becomes who they are. And that's what people need to understand.
And one of the worst feelings is, Paula, I hope I never know what you have gone through.
Yeah.
But I do know from friends and all, the worst feeling in the world is knowing that they did just have that nightmare and or whatever, and you want to be there and you want to be like, hey, talk to me, let me try to help you, but honestly, you can't erase that from their mind, and that's the only thing that can help them.
Right. And you know, I lost what I was gonna say. But
Well,
I know
Paula,
what you mean, by that. But the thing about it is, I'm sorry, but let me finish this while I still got it in my head. That person, whoever they are, you got to check in with your buddy every day. Every day. Because one day we didn't connect. I didn't talk to her anymore after that. But she knew that I would have picked up on things. And I knew something was wrong. I just got there a little too late. Check on your buddies.
I'm going to ask you a question, Paula, and I mean absolutely no insensitivity with this. How much of this do you take on yourself?
I don't blame myself for the act. I have constantly and every single day, especially at night, I remember that night. I replayed in my head over and over again. Like, damn, if I would have done this a little earlier, or if I would have had the first time I had that notion to go, instead of taking a shower, or instead of changing clothes, or instead of waiting for my husband to get home, I should have just gone. Because I found out when I found her, it was only about an hour and a half after she killed herself. And I started having that thought about 5:30. I found her at 8 o'clock that night. I changed clothes. I ate. I waited for my husband to get home to let him know I'm going to go over and check on Kathleen.
We coulda, woulda, shoulda ourselves to the end of
all
day.
day long. Yeah. And, it's just like, and damn, why didn't you tell me you bought that gun on Friday? You tell me everything. And it seemed like after the fact, everybody in the world knew about it but me. What the hell? I've gone through every emotion you can go through. The sadness, the loneliness, the depression, the anger. I go through it every day still. I have good days. I have bad days. Let me tell you something. Every night I go to bed when it gets quiet and I'm laying in the dark, I see that night over and over again. And I talk to her. I'm a paranormal investigator besides, But I totally believe in life after death. I talk to her because I know she can hear me. I've got her little dog. I took her dog home with me that night. I've still got Traveler. And I look at him and I tell her, my God, girl, how he was there with you. What that little dog saw you do. And I look at him, he's grown so much, and I tell her about him. It's every day.
Well, Paula, the reason I'm asking this is because I know you're going to be going through a journey of your own. To get over it is not even going to happen. That's never going to happen. But trying to find ways to cope with this is something that I'm not a magic man. I'm not any of those other things, but I do want to let you know, Paula, that anything that we can do to help you, if there's anything that we can do to try to find someone for you to talk to, I encourage you to please contact us, because we do know people who are there to talk to people because you were there for her. And Ilene said it. And it's hard to hear, I think, sometimes. But and you said it yourself. She couldn't talk to you because she knew you would have stopped it. And I think she knew that you loved her enough that you would have been there. And I want to make sure that you understand that if there's anything that we can do to get somebody for you to talk to, please, please, please reach out.
I appreciate it. I just want to make, I just don't want it to happen to anybody else. You know, I just don't want anybody else to go through this. And let me tell you, when you take your life, I know when you're in that moment, you're not thinking about what happens afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is brutal, but it's got to be said. My friend had no family in town locally. I did not have the money to call a service to go in and clean up after her suicide. Myself and 3 of my friends, we went in there, we cleaned that apartment. She would have never thought about that, I'm sure. That's just one of the first things that has to be done. You got to clean up the scene. And then you got to contact the family. You got to contact the friends. And then you're having to make decisions. I mean, I was having to make decisions because there was no family. The funeral home was calling me, what do we do? What do we do? Do we embalm or what do we do? You know? And it's like, it's very overwhelming. That first 72 hours after her death, I mean, was like a dream state. I didn't sleep because I was constantly on the phone with family, constantly on the phone with this arrangement, that arrangement. It's overwhelming, especially for the person who found you. And if they're having to do all that on top of it, okay, I know what you mean. You know, it's in the moment. You're not thinking about that. But you know what? If I had to make a suggestion, and I know a lot of people, you know, I keep a gun for protection. That's fine. But keep that gun out of your sight. Keep it in a gun safe. Keep the lock on it. Maybe not have it loaded. Maybe have the ammo in a separate place. I know for those of you that have weapons for self-protection or like, well, that defeats the purpose. But if you're a vet and you know you've got this condition, these are things you got to do, okay? Let's make you go through a few extra steps. The picture, I guess the picture, you know, to look at is fine. But when they're in that state, when they're in that frame of mind, it's not happening. It's not going to make a difference. But if it makes a little inconvenience, maybe it buys a few extra minutes or something, you know, before that friend can get over there or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any answers and I don't have any sage advice for anybody. I can only tell you what I went through and and the things that she went through.
Well,
Well, maybe this is one of those times that they can kind of make those locks a little bit more difficult to open. You know, I mean, look, you know what it's like when you go out and it's cold and you're trying to get into your damn car and the key won't open the door right away. You're just like, you know, doing anything and everything to, you know, but you get that frustration. You know, I mean, yeah, I'm half joking about this, but seriously, maybe there's something that they can do to double lock it or something to make them act, you know, make it, put that extra second of thought into this. Because, and you're right, I'm pro gun. I'm pro gun because I'm pro constitution. All right, I'm pro gun because I'm pro constitution. But here's the thing: there is nothing wrong with your suggestion that, you know what, my gun is here, my clip is there, still in the same room. It doesn't defeat any purpose.
Well, I can tell you that, I mean, Okay, I'm supposed to say something I've never really said, but I have contemplated it before.
Mhm.
And no, no, I will say the one thing that did stop me because I thought, I mean, it was like I had lost something that was very important to me, and I just thought there was no tomorrow without that person. And so I'm sitting there, and the one thing that stopped me was, like Paula said, who would find me? What, now mine was not going to be by, because I'm, you know, mom, I had different ways I was going to do it, but I was like, who would have to find me? Who would have to live with that the rest of their lives? And that's actually the moment that stopped me. But I'm going to tell you right now, a picture wouldn't have. It wouldn't have, because that might not have been the person, maybe if you do a picture, it's who would be the first person to find you. But it could be that, that you'd have to make sure, and who's going to think about changing that photo a lot, because what if that person is kind of the reason you're doing that? Would it push you more into it?
Hmm. I agree.
So,
It could be a trigger in itself,
right.
but she didn't expect for me to find her. She had one of those burglar bar things that go up underneath the doorknob like a chair would. And of course, she knew I had a key. She didn't think I could get in. Of course, adrenaline kicks in and you start kicking the door down, you know, and I was, you know, I
Well,
think, I think she thought that it would be EMTs or police that would find her because I couldn't get in. So I called 911,
seeing
you know.
I'm in the apartment business, and I've gotten those wellness checks before. And I went in one time, and it dawned on me, oh my gosh, there's a reason they're sending me to do a wellness check, because this was a younger kid. And I was like, what if I would have walked in at that moment and put myself in a bad situation? But then I got to thinking about it. And I've only seen a couple of dead bodies in my life, but one too many that I never want to do that to my staff. So we don't do wellness checks anymore.
Mhm.
You want a wellness check done, because I have to look out for myself, and I do have
Yeah.
to look out for my staff. You call the police department, and I will let them do a wellness check all day long. I will not do it.
Right.
And
And you're putting yourself at risk too, because if they are in a psychosis state
Mhm.
and they are in that act, who's to say they wouldn't turn around and use the weapon on you?
That's
You know,
what I thought
you,
about with that kid
you
20
don't know.
years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, what could I have walked in on? So
And
Eileen, this question uh, is: has your son approached you about any issues that he's had or any friends that he's been concerned about? Has your son ever talked to you and said, Mom, I got a buddy, I don't know what the hell to do about this? Has there ever been that situation?
not so much him. My son's a very quiet, which with the military, actually, I thought was it brought it out where he was more of a extrovert after the Marines, after he graduated, but he became an introvert again. So he doesn't talk a lot, but he does have a friend that has already been discharged due to mental. And I do worry about him periodically, but just because a lot of the people, one of my son's friends, which is one of my good friends' son, he was actually in Paris Island when that kid did kill himself. But I'm in a lot of the mom groups. And it's one of those things that's hard for me to leave the mom groups, even though my son, it's been years, because I do see where they're talking about it in the moms group, where they get these letters from home, and a lot of them stay after the kids go somewhere else. And so as moms, we just kind of talk each other through it and try to figure out
There's
what to do for their kid.
I don't think that there's any reason to leave these moms groups because you know what? There's no time limit on when something can trigger in a head.
Right.
The
Kathleen's been out of the military for over 10 years.
yeah,
When she
and
was-
I've got I was doing a little bit of studying. I had to have somebody teach me how to read, Ilene, but I was doing a little bit of studying, you know,
Hey,
and I've got some.
You got to be proud of me. This is probably the longest I have ever been serious because it's
Yeah,
serious subject.
well, I am, and it's you know, it's really hard to joke about this, but it's also kind of one of those things that you got to throw something in there every once in a while, because this is something that can really bring you down. But just as an example, okay, the for people, or for all veterans ages 18 to 34, the first leading cause of death is accidents or unintentional injuries, and this is 18 to 34. Second is suicide. Okay, the second, which is 35 to 44, again, accidents or unintentional injuries and suicide. And that's people getting up into the age of 44 years old. 45 to 54, suicide is still, at 54 years old, still the fourth leading cause of suicide. So I don't think, Ilene, you should leave these moms groups, because you know what? This isn't, God forbid something ever happens to especially your son, but anybody's son, okay? But the truth is that, you know what, you all can be there for each other. And I think that that's something right here that you brought Paula to us, and Paula's told an amazing story. Paula, your strength is still
Yes,
Jeremy's
Paula's
here.
amazing.
Yeah, Jeremy's here. But you know, Paula, your strength is something to be admired, because you went through something that could really devastate someone, and your story, I hope, sticks with people to where they can not be afraid to ask these questions. That, you know what, yeah, maybe it's going to make you feel like an asshole to ask a friend a question, but would you rather feel like an asshole or go to a funeral?
Well, it's just like I used to tell her all the time, you know me, I'm going to ask you the hard questions,
Mm-hmm.
But I can do that because I'm your best friend. And I got that right. And hey, she asked me a few hard questions too. And, back when you were talking about, the little steps we can do to prevent this type of thing. Another thing, and this is what I do for myself, because I'll admit I've had those tendencies myself,
Yeah.
because of some of the things I've been through, and that's one of the reasons me and Kathleen connected so strongly, is because of similar backgrounds. I keep my gun in my house, but I never touch that gun unless I mean to use it. I don't keep that gun in my sight, but I never touch that gun, because let me tell you what happens. You're holding that gun, you might be cleaning that gun, you load that gun, you're handling that gun, and that little demon pops up and says, just do it quick. It's done. Just do it. And if they get sucked into that moment, don't touch or look at that gun. Don't handle that gun unless you plan on defending yourself against somebody breaking into your house, or somebody, is threatening a loved one. Other than that, don't touch that gun. Don't look at that gun. And when you take it out and clean it, you make sure there's a house full there. All right? Just so you don't slip into that moment. You put that gun back up and you forget about that gun.
And
That's just something that I do. I don't know if it'll work for anybody else, but that's just me.
now I will tell you one thing that I've just, I have had, not with military and all, but I have had several friends take their own lives. one telltale, and I think the main reason why she could not call you that day is because probably the last words you would have said to her was, I love you. And a lot of times, those 3 simple words can change a whole situation. And I think she knew she would not be able to go through with it if she heard those words from you and you would have said them. I mean, me and Paula don't really know each other. We've talked several times, but something in me tells me you would have said those words getting off the phone with her.
Every day. And ever since I found her that first time, not only was it I love you, but I love you and I need you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we ended our conversations.
But
I love you.
It's normally the ones that are, like you were saying earlier, everyone's like, oh, they're going to announce, they're going to do this, you're going to see all this. It's normally being quiet. Sometimes you'll start seeing them kind of get their life together where everything starts falling into place to help others. It's the little signs. Sometimes it's the overly laughing, trying to be silly, just trying to pull themselves out of that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know I'm a goofball, and a lot of people, some people know I do suffer from depression and panic attacks and all that. But one of my defenses is laughter, is being silly. And when you see someone that's, and I don't know about her, but when you see someone that is overly silly, that is one sign to kind of, I mean, you got your comedians, yes, but dig deeper sometimes with those people, because that might be a little telltale that something is going on, because it might be a defense mechanism to try to overcome what they're really feeling inside.
Robin Williams is a good example. And hey, that's enough. I'm sorry.
He wanted to make an appearance.
Right.
And
I have
and the other one of the other big things is that you can always watch and see if somebody is starting to give away their most valuable possessions to family members, because that is a huge one.
I'm gonna tell you what she was doing the last couple of weeks. And she'd had some financial issues. And anyway, she had some financial issues. And she was selling off everything. And it was stuff she had just bought like a month or two before, furniture, nice things. She sold off gifts that people gave her, She was in a manic high, selling off all this stuff. And another thing I noticed too, when she'd get in a manic state, if she was mad about something or mad at somebody, she'd become very overly aggressive towards it. And that wasn't her. She was a very quiet individual, but so funny. She had the driest sense of humor. But and if you didn't know her, you just didn't get it, But yeah, she started selling stuff off. I mean, everything. That apartment, all it had was a bed, and then she had a single bed in there in the living room, and that was it. That was all the furniture she had. She had sold off more than I had even realized. She usually came over here, and it wasn't often I was over there too much. And I realized that, and she started pawning her jewelry and all this stuff. I knew she was having money issues, so I chalked it up to that. But it's funny you say that, but they start giving stuff away. She did that, but like I said, it all goes back to, I don't think it was planned. I think this was a very spontaneous thing to a point. I mean, I think that day was a whole day of leading up to it, but
now, did she go to work that day? Because you
no.
said, okay. Because you said it could have happened late in the day, so I didn't know she had gone to work that day.
No, as a matter of fact, she had called in and told them she was bleeding from her ear. She had a tumor in her ear, and every time that tumor would grow some, it would make her ear bleed. And anyway, she hadn't had a problem with it, for a while. But she sent her boss a picture of her ear bleeding, and when her boss showed me the picture, it was a picture that had been taken like a year ago.
Oh man.
The day before, check this out. This is even weirder. The day before, while she was at work, this is like her second day on the job, she gets a phone call. She's talking to somebody on the phone, but they were under the impression it was the manager of the apartment. She told her boss that her apartment had been broken into and that management had her dog. She stayed at work. I would have been the first person she'd called because I could get there before she could, for one thing. And another thing, your apartment just got broken into and you're not going to go home.
Yeah.
It's strange behavior. That's why I said I would say that 48 hours leading up into it, there was some kind of psychosis going on. Something was going on. And I thought, well, she's busy with her new job. She had a new boyfriend, so she was talking to him all the time. So we didn't talk as much that 48 hours as we normally did, which was every day, Just strange behaviors, but like I said, you're not going to see it. This is stuff that was in retrospect, And it wasn't until I started talking to everybody and comparing notes and comparing what she did and what she said, and well, it was just, it was a strange 48 hours leading up into it. It really was.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you both. Ilene, thank you for the introduction. Paula, thank you for your story. Ilene, thank you for sharing with us everything. These are the kind of stories that really, really do matter because they do make people think a little bit. You're right. Maybe now somebody is going to sit there and go, who is going to find me? Who is going to clean this up? Who's going to be the one that has to deal with the aftermath? Is that what we want them to have to think about? No. But if it saves their life,
If it stops it.
if it stops, by God, whatever. I don't, that is perfectly fine with me. Jeremy's popping in real quick and
Oh no.
To close it. Yep. Jeremy's popping in to close us out. But Jeremy, what did you think about everything that you just heard?
That was a hard story to hear, to be honest. Definitely wasn't expecting that, but I can also relate to you in a way because I too have lost two friends to suicide. One of them was one of my best friends that I bowled with all over the country for 20 years. And he was one of the very happiest go-lucky kind of person you would ever know. There was never, ever any kind of sign with him. I know you guys are talking about signs, what to look for, what to listen for. There was never anything like that for him. Yeah, they just, one day, boom, he did it. I got a message that night. His family, his cousin was his roommate. Nobody knew anything was ever wrong with him.
Well, again, what we've heard this, just like last year, what we've heard is invaluable because we've heard great things from people. We've heard very, very hard stories. The truth is that we're hearing things that hopefully are going to help us be brave enough to approach somebody and say, okay, look, I've noticed something. Is something going on? You say no, I'm going to back off all right, but we're not going to back off. All right. Look, the thing is, we need to make sure that we're there. We need to make sure, you know, like you said, we got to be vigilant when it comes to this. If you think there's a problem, is this where we go through? If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, you know, do we really need to start being even more super vigilant when it comes to things like this? Because suicide is something that, look, it's up everywhere. It's up everywhere. It's not just in the military side. 2020 was the last time I saw any stats, but 81 people a day were taking their own lives, and that was in 2020. That was the last updated thing I saw. This is something that we've really, really got to pay attention as a society, because, you know, look, lives sometimes, and I think everybody on this group here can agree with me. There's some time in life that, you know what, life just freaking sucks.
Mhm.
Just know that if you're gone, life is going to suck a hell of a lot more for a lot of people.
Yep.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Paula, please, if you need any help, if you need somebody to talk to, reach out. Let us try to help you out. Ilene, as always, thank you.
Love y'all.
And thank you for participating in this. Jeremy, and thank you for everything that you've done, brother. Thank you for allowing us again to come on and kidnap your stations. Even though our Facebooks are not working right now.
I still don't get that.
I don't know what's going on there either, but you know what?
And I even said it too.
You know what? We'll just keep doing what we're doing, and we'll just keep sharing it from YouTube, I guess. But
And I want to say something to Paula.
yes, please.
You are a strong woman, because
Absolutely.
I mean, yes, I'm just gonna leave it there. You're a strong woman.
I don't have a choice. I got too many that count on me, and I don't know. I just, you know, like I said, it's hard to put one foot in front of the other some days, but you got to. You got to reach down deep and find it.
Again, thank you all three. This was a hard hour. This really was. This was a hard hour because the stories were real. The stories, you know, their stories have been real all day, but this is, you know, this is something that this is going to leave a lasting impression, and I thank you all. So
I want to thank y'all, because this is more therapeutic for me than you know, just talking about it. And thank you, Ilene, for, you know, reaching out to me and bringing me with everyone here.
Problem.
Thank you.
No problem.
well, again, Paula, if you need help, please reach out. We're here for you. Okay.
Thank you.
We are about ready to go on to the 10th segment, which means one thing. We're on the 10th segment and not the 12th.
I love y'all. Good
I
night.
still got a ways to go, but we will be right back. Just find us, just look above. Thank you.